Have you ever wondered how simple this story must be about a snake, a forbidden fruit, and the fall of man? But what if I told you that the serpent was not just a mere creature, but a fallen god, the source of a cosmic war whose influence lives on until this day? In this video, we will explore the hidden secrets in the original Hebrew text to uncover who the serpent truly is, and how this story leads us to a great battle between light and darkness. But that's not all. This story not only tells of deception, but also contains a promise of hope about a victory that was destined from the beginning and fulfilled through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Join us as we reveal the full truth behind this story, uncover lesser-known details in Genesis, and learn how the deception in the Garden of Eden laid the foundation for humanity's salvation. Trust me, you won't want to miss the exciting insights we're about to share.
Let's start with a story that most of us are familiar with. The story of Adam, Eve, and the serpent in the Garden of Eden. This is one of the most famous stories in the Bible, but it is often misunderstood or oversimplified. In Genesis 1, we read, "Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made." In sermons, movies, and stories we hear in Sunday school, the serpent is often depicted as a speaking animal, literally. The image of the serpent whispering and tempting Eve is a powerful symbol. On the surface, this might seem like a simple story. The serpent deceives Eve. She eats the forbidden fruit, shares it with Adam, and as a result, both are banished from the Garden of Eden. Tradition has viewed this as the origin of sin, the cause of the world's downfall. But have we ever asked ourselves why? A talking serpent appears right at the beginning of the story. Why would God create a creature capable of deceiving His creation? And why does this serpent have the ability to speak, reason, and challenge God's command? These questions are often overlooked because we are accustomed to the simplified understanding of the story as it is typically presented. Most interpretations view the serpent as a tool used by Satan to carry out his plot. However, this understanding doesn't answer many important questions. For example, why didn't Eve feel afraid when confronted by a talking serpent? In any other situation, encountering such a creature would certainly be strange and alarming. Yet, Eve engages in a normal conversation with the serpent, suggesting that she might have viewed this creature as something other than an ordinary snake. If we take this story literally, we would have to accept that a serpent led to the fall of mankind. However, the punishment for the serpent in Genesis 3:14 reveals a deeper meaning. God says to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life." The image of the cursed serpent crawling on its belly is often understood as an explanation for why snakes slither. But is that the full meaning of this passage? Or are we overlooking an important symbolic message it seeks to convey? Next, we need to clarify another point. What is the forbidden fruit? Although many people assume it was an apple, the Bible does not specifically identify the type of fruit. What matters is not the fruit itself, but the act of disobedience. the serpent persuades Eve that eating the fruit will give her and Adam the knowledge of good and evil, making them like God. Genesis chapter 3:5. This is a crucial detail because it clarifies the nature of the temptation. It wasn't just about eating the fruit, but the desire to gain wisdom and power beyond God's guidance. The traditional explanation often portrays the serpent as the embodiment of evil, Eve as the one deceived, and Adam as the silent participant. It's a clear story of temptation and disobedience, a story that is easy to retell and understand. But is the story really that simple? Is the serpent just a clever creature? Or is there a deeper story hidden within the original Hebrew text? To truly understand this story, we need to dig deeper, going beyond what the eye can see. In Hebrew, the word for serpent is nakash. This term is often simply understood as a snake. But this is where things start to get interesting. The Hebrew language is rich and complex, with layers of meaning that can sometimes be lost when translated into other languages. Words in Hebrew can have multiple meanings, and the context is crucial to properly interpreting them. While nakash can be understood as a serpent, it also carries symbolic and spiritual meanings that can only be fully appreciated when we understand the original text. Let's break this down. The word nakash comes from a root that has three main meanings. The serpent. This is the most literal interpretation. The term refers to a slithering, hissing creature, which is why many translations call it a serpent. However, this raises an important question. Why is a mere snake described as more cunning than any beast of the field, as in Genesis 3:1? This phrase implies that the serpent possesses a level of intelligence and cunning far beyond what we might imagine for an ordinary animal. It suggests the presence of a superior power and a much more intricate plot than just that of a simple snake. The Shining One. In ancient Hebrew, nakash can also mean the Shining One. This interpretation suggests that the serpent is not just a literal creature, but a supernatural being, one that radiates with brilliant light. The term, the Shining One, evokes images of angels or divine figures in the Bible. For example, in Ezekiel 28:13-14, a fallen angel is described as being covered in precious stones, shining with brilliance. This fits with the idea that the serpent in the Garden of Eden could have been a fallen angel, perhaps even Lucifer, before his rebellion. The deceiver or enchanter. The root of the word nakash also means divination or the use of enchantments. This meaning suggests that the serpent is not merely a physical creature, but one who uses words to deceive, manipulate others with false promises and lies. This perfectly fits with the role of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. It is the deceiver, convincing Eve to question God's command and seek knowledge outside of His will. The serpent is not just an animal, but the embodiment of subtle deception, preying on the desire to break through the boundaries set by God. When we look at the Hebrew text, the image of the serpent in the Garden of Eden is not simply of a creature slithering through the grass. In fact, it is a powerful, cunning being, possibly with a divine nature. It seems the author of Genesis wants us to look beyond the surface, beyond the image of a mere snake, and recognize that spiritual deception is unfolding in a sophisticated way. The term nakash, when understood as the Shining One, evokes descriptions of angelic beings in other parts of the Bible. In 2 Corinthians chapters 11-14, the Apostle Paul writes, "And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light." This suggests that the serpent in the Garden of Eden may have appeared as a being of light, a radiant entity using its beauty and allure to deceive Eve. So, is the serpent just an ordinary animal? Or is it a far more powerful and deceptive being? Based on the Hebrew text, it seems that it is not simply a snake. The word nakash is the clue that leads us to a being not only present in the garden, but also representing a spiritual force, an entity in opposition to God. The serpent is the deceiver who brought spiritual death to humanity through lies and empty promises. We begin to realize that the serpent is a fallen god, a tempter using its appearance and eloquent words to challenge God's authority, leading humanity down a misguided path. In Ezekiel 28, the prophet describes a being in Eden, the garden of God. The passage says, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, gold. The workmanship of your tabrets and of your pipes was prepared in you in the day that you were created. You are the anointed cherub that covers. And I have set you so. You were upon the holy mountain of God." This vivid description paints a picture of a radiant angel, adorned with precious stones, holding a high position in God's divine counsel. Many biblical scholars believe that this passage refers to Satan before his fall. The term anointed cherub refers to a great guardian angel, a being endowed with an honorable position and special power. In the ancient Near Eastern context, cherubim were seen as powerful spiritual beings guarding the throne of God. They were not chubby winged children, but mighty creatures representing strength and divine protection. This description cannot apply to a mere snake slithering through the garden. It is clearly referring to a divine being that once walked in the presence of God. So, who truly was present in the Garden of Eden? The answer becomes clearer when we look at the fall of this being. The phrase, "You walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire," suggests that this being had access to sacred places, but its pride and rebellion led to its downfall. Isaiah 14:12-15 continues to describe this being, commonly known as Lucifer, meaning morning star or light bringer. The passage says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. Lucifer's ambition and pride caused him to rebel against God, resulting in his fall from his exalted position. Many scholars believe that it was Lucifer, as a fallen angel, who took the form of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. He was not just an ordinary snake, but a divine being, once glorious, but now a deceiver, bringing temptation and leading humanity down a misguided path. In 2 Corinthians 11:14, the Apostle Paul offers an important insight when he writes, "And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light." This verse highlights a core aspect of Satan. He does not merely appear as an evil force, but often disguises himself in beautiful forms, masking his deceptive intentions. This perfectly aligns with the understanding of the word nakash in Hebrew, which we explored earlier. This term not only refers to a serpent, but also evokes the image of a shining, captivating being, fitting with Satan's deceptive nature. This interpretation opens up a new perspective on why Eve didn't feel alarmed when facing the serpent. She was not simply talking to a snake slithering through the grass, but to a radiant being, exuding wisdom and trustworthiness. The deception here was not limited to words alone, but also to appearance. This being emitted a divine, intellectual light, making it difficult to resist its temptation. This leads to a deeper understanding. The serpent in Genesis was not just an ordinary creature, but a fallen, powerful being using its beauty, wisdom, and allure to deceive humanity, leading them away from God's guidance. This being was once a guardian of God's throne, but now had become an enemy, not only of God, but also of humanity. The story is no longer just a simple tale of disobedience, but a cosmic battle between good and evil, with humanity at the heart of this conflict. The serpent was not just a snake, it was a fallen deity, using its power and beauty to tempt humanity away from God. To understand the true nature of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, we must delve into the story of Lucifer's fall, a tale full of pride, rebellion, and the downfall of an angel who once stood high. One of the most significant passages that unveils this mystery is found in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 14:12-15 offers a poetic yet powerful image of the fall of the morning star, Lucifer. The verse says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit." This passage describes Lucifer's excessive pride and ambition, which led to his rebellion against God's authority and the severe punishment he faced. This fall was not just a personal event, but also a defining factor in the cosmic battle, where Lucifer, who had fallen from a radiant deity, became an enemy of both God and humanity. This passage is often understood as describing Lucifer, whose name means morning star or light bearer. It speaks of a being who was once glorious, created to shine with divine light, but became arrogant. Lucifer's sin is expressed through the repetition of the phrase, "I will." His desire to elevate himself above God, to take the position of the Almighty. Lucifer's rebellion was not just an act of disobedience. It was an attempt to overthrow God's divine order. He wanted to ascend above the stars of God, a phrase symbolizing the angels, and sit on the Mount of the Assembly, referring to the highest position in heaven. The desire to be like the Most High was pure pride, wanting to become equal with God. This act of rebellion was truly catastrophic. Lucifer, once a high-ranking angel, used his influence and beauty to challenge God's power. The Bible gives us a glimpse of his greatness before the fall. In Ezekiel 28:12-15, Lucifer is described as a being full of wisdom and perfect beauty, adorned with all kinds of precious stones. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. But something changed. Wickedness began to form in Lucifer. Pride, envy, and ambition for power took root in his heart. Instead of continuing to fulfill the role God had given him, he desired more. He wanted worship, glory, and status, things that only belonged to God. This pride led to his fall, and ultimately, Lucifer was cast out of heaven. He was no longer the bearer of light, but became the prince of darkness. In Luke 10:18, Jesus refers to this event when he says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." This confirms that Lucifer's expulsion was not a lengthy process, but a sudden, dramatic event. Lucifer had once stood in the assembly of the gods, but was immediately cast down, separated from the glory he once held. But what does this event have to do with the serpent in the Garden of Eden? The connection becomes clear when we realize that Lucifer, now Satan, did not disappear after his fall. Instead, he became the enemy, the accuser, and the one who seeks to deceive and destroy God's creation. In Revelation 12:9, we read, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him." This verse links the serpent in Genesis to Satan, the fallen angel who sought to lead humanity away from God, just as he had led a rebellion in heaven. The serpent is not merely an animal. It is a disguise Satan uses to tempt Eve into disobedience. He appears as a wise creature, offering divine knowledge, but his true purpose is to corrupt God's creation. This understanding truly changes the entire story. The tale of the serpent in the Garden of Eden is not just about a serpent deceiving a woman. It is the beginning of a cosmic battle, the continuation of Lucifer's rebellion against God. Satan, the fallen angel, entered the garden in the form of a wise creature, deceiving humanity just as he had deceived the angels who followed him in the rebellion. The act of deception in the garden is part of Satan's strategy to oppose God's plan. He could not directly defeat God, so he turned his attention to humanity, God's beloved creation. By convincing Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, he succeeded in bringing sin into the world, completely altering the course of human history and opening the door to the ongoing battle between good and evil that we still witness today.